Hello, pup parents, and welcome to today's episode of the Perfect Pup Podcast. My name is Devin. Sometimes your dog does things and you think, are they just trying to defy me? Are they being naughty? When we think that, oftentimes I've found that it comes down to our dogs are just opportunists. They see things in front of them that are going to make their life better and they want to do those things without really any idea of what the repercussions might be. So, we're going to dive into that today. We're going to dive into some behaviors that showcase dogs being opportunists. And of course, we're going to talk about how you can train a dog who is very opportunistic. So, let's get right into it. First off, apologies for being out for a couple weeks. We were working on revamping the Pupford website with our new branding and color scheme and a whole new kind of experience on our website. So if you haven't seen that already, definitely go check it out. First thing, a very brief history lesson. Dogs, it is generally thought, came from a common ancestor shared between wolves and dogs very, very long time ago, right? But back in those days, they were living in the wild and they had to eat to survive. Of course, dogs have been domesticated for about the past 10 to 30,000 years, depending on who you ask, and different evidence that is coming out, but a very long time. Even with that being said, a lot of those original traits from their previous ancestors stick with them, and dogs ate to survive, wolves ate to survive, and that has stayed with our dogs. So when we talk about dogs being opportunists or being opportunistic or practicing opportunism, we need to talk about what that word means generally, right? If you look it up, it talks about adapting actions to effectiveness and expediency. And it also adds, regardless of what the ethical or moral results are. And that side would, play more into the human side of things, how many politicians, for example, act. They do things they adapt their decisions and actions to do things that are going to help them in the moment and what they perceive as most effective, regardless of how it affects other people or regardless of how it goes against their morals. Not going to rant on politicians. It's not the point of this. But when you look at it through that lens, you can see that our dogs are very, very similar. And I want to give you 3 behaviors that can very clearly paint how our dogs aren't trying to be naughty or bad or, they're not trying to disobey us. They just are opportunists. And when things are in front of them, they are going to go towards those things, do those things, consume those things that they believe are going to give them a better state. Again, going back to effectiveness and expediency. If it's going to be effective for them and for their life, which means getting food, play, freedom, they're going to do those things. So here's a few behaviors that you've probably seen. And hopefully this can kind of help you rethink how you look at these behaviors and think of them less as my dog's being bad and more of my dog is an opportunist. So the first one is running out of doors and fences, right? Even if your dog has been trained to not go out of doors, if a door is left open, put yourself in your dog's shoes. They're inside the house most of the day. They know outside there are a lot of sounds, there's a lot of smells, there's maybe other dogs to play with, there might be food on the ground, whatever it might be. The outside world is way more exciting than your home or apartment. That's just the fact of the matter. And so if a door is open, they see that as an opportunity. They say, look, this is an opportunity to go out and explore and do things that are enjoyable for me. So they're going to go out that door. They're not doing it. They're not, even when you go to open your door and you're going out on a walk with your dog, there's some old theories of like, oh, if your dog goes first out the door, then they're going to be dominating you and they're going to be the pack leader. And it's like, no, they just want to go outside because they're a dog and they want to explore. So that's the first one. The second one is anything with food, right? Whether it's grabbing food off the ground, grabbing food out of a garbage, counter surfing, grabbing things that you wouldn't think they would want to eat from very weird places. They are doing that again because the way that their brains are wired, they eat for survival. And of course, it's not the case now, but that's still hardwired into them. And so if they see food, they see, hey, look, opportunity for me to feed myself and to be kind of moving towards survival. The third thing is going to be chasing prey and generally tying that into leash pulling, right? If your dog sees things, let's say whatever it is, a squirrel, it could be another dog. It could be a person, right? They see that as an opportunity, especially for squirrels, as a prey. Again, going back to the food thing, they say, look, this is something I want to go after. This is something that is going to improve my life. It is going to be a positive reward for me. And so they are going to go after it. They don't care that they're on a leash. They don't understand that. They don't look at it as, oh, I need to be close to my human. They look at it as, this leash is stopping me from having freedom and being able to go after the opportunities that I have. So I hope looking at those three behaviors kind of changes your mindset when you think about, oh, my dog is being bad or naughty, and rather they might just be looking to take advantage of an opportunity that is in front of them and improve their own life. So here's a few tips for training an opportunistic dog, which is most dogs, but some more than others. The first one is going to be just being careful with how much freedom you give, especially in that first year to 18 months. The more freedom you give, the more opportunity you're giving for your dog to go do those quote unquote naughty behaviors that you don't want them to do. But again, they're just doing it because they want to, because it's enjoyable for them, because they're going to get a reward, grabbing food, running through doors, pulling on the leash, right? So trying to limit the freedom, especially in the home with food. We've done episodes about counter surfing. Really the best way to eliminate counter surfing or ensure it does not happen is to not give your dog an opportunity to do that. I know it's not easy, but it is possible. The second one is going to be creating some safety guardrails for your dog. And especially again, in that first year, 18 months, 2 years. So using things like gates, right? If you are very worried about your dog bursting through the door, then don't give them access to the door. Use a baby gate, or not allow them into that room. Have a door to separate it, or a baby gate to separate them from that front or back door where they could burst out. Using things like a crate that's going to reduce their opportunities to go and eat things, destroy things. Again, just exploring those opportunities that they have in front of them. And the third thing, and I think the most important, is to train what you do want. So often we get hung up on, I don't want my dog to pull on the leash, or I don't want my dog to burst through doors, or I don't want my dog to be begging for food. So train alternative behaviors, right? And alternative is just one word for it, but train the behavior that you want. If when you are having dinner, you don't want your dog begging, even though that's in their, innate desires to go find food and come after it. If you don't want that, teach them to settle on their place, or teach them to be in their crate when you're eating your meals. Or if it's bursting through doors, you can very easily, with time and repetition, teach your dog that every time they go out the door, they need to sit and wait for you to release them. So I hope this episode has been helpful. I hope you can kind of start turning the wheels in your head and thinking, you know what, maybe my dog isn't trying to be naughty, or they're not bad, or they're not being, they're not disobeying. They're just opportunistic creatures, and they are going to do things that they believe are going to be effective for them and expedient for them to get the things that they want. And when we look through it with that lens, it can kind of give us some empathy for our dogs and for their situation, and be better able to train them and raise them and work with them in a way that is going to adapt to their needs and help them survive in this human-centric world. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have not already, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It is extremely helpful for this podcast to get more exposure, and I also love the feedback. But other than that, we will catch you on the next episode.